One, and we are live.
Okay, thank you. So this is Standard Government Operations. It is Friday, May 7th. And we are going to be talking first about H-122, hopefully passing that. And if people seem to be struggling and poking at things and stuff, it's because this is our first day of the closed captioning. And we're all trying to figure out how to see it and whether it works and whether we see the down at the bottom. I do not see it on my screen right now, but I haven't turned it off. Oh, I did turn it off. So
Madam Chair, now that we're live, oddly, it's showing up between share screen and reactions under called live transcript.
Yes. Okay. And
so
now
I guess it has to be live for it to pop up on our computers.
If you want to, thank you, Bob. If you want to not see, you can hide the captioning or see the captioning.
I know, it's amazing. It's kind of cool.
I'm just telling you that if you find that distracting, and I found that very distracting this morning in Judiciary, and just turned it off. It doesn't mean that other people can't see it, but I couldn't see it. I found it very distracting.
What's interesting though is it doesn't tell you who's speaking. It just tells you the words that are, the words that are being spoken, but it doesn't say Jeanette White said this, Allison Clarkson said that. It just has it just all runs together.
Right.
So
and that's
my guess is you have to look at, see who's speaking at the same time as you read the captions.
Well,
it's live, so it's going to be really imperfect. It just helps people probably partially.
I mean, it's so for people who have hearing difficulties, if they're watching the YouTube, they can see the closed captioning. And as with other people who are watching it, we don't say, now it's Jeanette speaking. They have to figure out when I'm speaking and when Anthony is speaking and stuff. So it's just an additional help for people. Okay. So let's go to 122. And I think the only outstanding issue was the per diems for for the Climate Council. And where were we with that committee?
We were torn.
We were torn. And do we remain torn? Senator Collmore?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm for just leaving them out or leaving them the same for the moment. And the Sunset Advisory Committee will be studying that this summer.
Okay.
I just want
Anybody else? Yes.
I mean, I just want to make it clear that would preclude this group from doing what they want to do because the bulk of their work will be done by the fall.
Oh, even if the Sunset Committee deals with it this summer, it's not going to happen until next July.
Right.
Well, I don't know that it precludes this committee from doing their work. It precludes some people from participating.
Right. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Senator Clarkson.
So I would be open to a provision that we could put in here that, I mean, we're about to give the Climate Council in the budget is $100 million for the Climate Council's work. Surely we can figure this out. There is plenty of money there to help pay for this subcommittee work. And it strikes me that if we are able, we should put enabling language in for them to be able to use this for this limited time period of, and these limited subcommittees. There aren't that many, and there aren't that many people that we could enable them to use that money until we have a comprehensive solution to this challenge.
It isn't they already have a budget. It doesn't have to come out of the 100 million. They already have a budget for per diems. The question is, because they're they have to abide by the general provisions, which says per diems are $50. That's the issue. They're not going to be taking extra money out of the 100 million. They already have the money. And the suggestion that Ameren had was that they could be paid, if they requested it, they could be paid $100 as long as they had money in their per diem budget. It isn't more money that we're giving them.
Well, it isn't more money that they need.
It
Instead
isn't
of
more
what-
money that they need, I guess. Right.
Right. It's already in their budget right
It's-
now. It has
it's
nothing
the-
to do with the 100 million.
But it does set up an unequal playing field in my view.
Yep. I know that this probably isn't the right approach to take, but if it's limited people and limited numbers of, and Sue said that they were working with nonprofits and philanthropists. I don't know why somebody who is a philanthropist who supports this can't just give somebody an extra $50, not through a nonprofit, but just I could send a card to somebody with an extra $50 in it, if that made a difference on their ability to participate. I guess I don't understand why that is not doable and is such an issue.
I just worry so much about that being our public message about civic participation. Hopefully a rich person like sends someone a card with $50, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we, as I think Senator Clarkson pointed out the other day, you know, we haven't raised the per diem amount in many decades. I think if it was, I don't know if you all have been looking into it in this context, but if it was raised by inflation from the early 90s, it would be, you know, between $90 to $120. So $100 seems really reasonable for a temporary solution for a council whose work we're really depending on, whose work will be done soon. And they're really, really working hard with people they can see and have brought in who they're losing because it's so hard for those folks to serve. I agree they have the money. They're not asked, it makes it really clear to me that they wouldn't be coming back for an additional appropriation. They've thought about a lot of creative ways to do this, but they're trying not to go outside of our process. They're trying to do, in my view, the right thing, what we'd want them to do.
So could we put, I mean, I appreciate Ameren's language. Could we put more guardrail? I mean, could we maybe add a guardrail that this is, because we're between a rock and a hard place on this, we certainly want to enable participation. We also sort of don't want this. I mean, it's, you know.
Like intent language?
Yeah,
No.
like intent guardrails that we make clear this is only for this, that we are taking this issue up to have a more comprehensive solution, and that, I don't know, it's hard.
also in session law. So it is, that kind of already sets the intention that this is temporary.
Well, it's only for this one thing anyway. It just says, and this commission, this is going to die. I mean, it's going to cease to exist. So it isn't as if it's going to go on. And we actually allow some agencies to give different per diems. We know that. There are some commissions that do it. And
So acknowledging that, maybe for this one thing, we put the guardrails down that this would only be done by December of 21, and that and put, actually have language with the expectation that we come up with a more comprehensive solution to consider next session.
We could do that if you want. I think that makes it much more complicated. I think that we can just say, because it's already in the Sunset Advisory Committee's charge, it's already there. It says that.
Right.
And
because we put it there.
yes, we put it there. It's already there. And I just think this complicates it
Right. I know. I don't.
We either think that they ought to be able to get $100 or we don't. I think that's the bottom line. And I appreciate Senator Collmore's concern about doing it for this one thing. And I realize that in general, we probably need to give more money to people, but to participate, but we have 300 commissions or boards and commissions. And if we were to pay $100 to everybody who asked for all of those, we would be in the same position as our retirement fund. I mean, we simply can't do it. I know that. We've looked at it a little bit, and we also haven't raised the jury duty. $30 a day. I mean, and there is, anyway, I don't want to go on. I appreciate, I will support this for this one time, just because they need to get it done and they need to get it done fast. But I do have issues with thinking that people are being reimbursed for their time to do community and civic work. And I mean, even select board members in most towns get paid about $500 a year. So I think that we need to be aware of what we mean when we say we're reimbursing people for their time.
So Amron, would you be kind enough to read the language that you have on this?
Yes, for the record, Amron Abergele Legislative Council. I did just send it to Gail. Hopefully she will be able to post it. But I can also read it in the meantime. So this says, so this would add a section 11A to H122 with the reader assistance header Vermont Climate Council. Vermont Climate Council temporary per diem compensation sunset until June 30th, 2022, and notwithstanding any provision of 10 VSA 591G or 32 VSA 1010 to the contrary, a Vermont Climate Council member or subcommittee member who is entitled to per diem compensation under 10 VSA 591G shall, upon request, receive per diem compensation in the amount of $100, subject to the availability of funds budgeted for council per diem compensation.
I think that's pretty clear, and it puts the guardrails on it. It's only for this time. It will sunset. It is within their current budget.
So I'm a reluctant, yes, not on the work, but on doing it, the cart before the horse. But I also appreciate that we're wanting to include people for whom this is a challenge. I get that. I get all the good things, but so I'm a reluctant yes on this.
I also am a reluctant yes.
Take care.
Anthony?
I'm just a regular yes. I mean, I think it sets a precedent, but in some ways I'd rather set the precedent doing this than set the precedent of having wealthy people help fund state government. I think and I think this will sort of push the issue that we all agree that the per diems are too low. So by taking this action, we're sort of sending a clear message that we believe that they're too low and they need to be looked at.
Right, but we're putting the cart before the horse. I mean,
well, you're right. We are.
It's an issue for everybody. I mean, there are a lot of people for whom it's a financial challenge to serve on these commissions. I would not say a whole bunch of wealthy people are serving on these commissions. These are
I meant asking wealthy people to contribute to other people's per diems.
Oh, yeah, I know.
That sticks in the craw too.
I know.
That's really, I think,
It
sadly,
wasn't a bad thing to put on the table, Jeanette. It wasn't like you shouldn't have said it. It's not that bad.
It made it stark. It's like,
well, it shows that there's limited options, basically. There's only so much we can do.
Okay, Senator Collmore.
I'm still a strong no.
Okay. I guess that's 4 in favor of this and 1 opposed. So I guess we'll put it in, Ameren.
So, Madam Chair, I had prepared for last week, or earlier this week, just in case the committee liked this language. I did put it into H122 as a new draft. Would you like to review the H122 amendment in its whole with this in it? And
Well, I think we can look at it. I'm
okay.
not sure there's much we need to, we've been over the emergency management portion and over the, what else did we put in here? I think that's the only big thing that we put in here, right?
It's draft 1.3, Ameren, is that right? And then you make it draft 1.4 with this addition.
So
No.
just because I had done some drafting in between in the background, this will be draft 1.5, but
Oh.
it has gone through editing. So if the committee is comfortable with this draft 1.5, then
Then we should probably see it.
you could review it now.
Okay,
So I
let's do
just
it.
sent that to Gail.
Okay.
Oh, this is our challenge, is refreshing. Although I did refresh myself between the floor and this meeting and went and put peony cages on peonies. That was refreshing.
So Ameren, was this, oh, okay, never mind, I just got it. Here we go.
Wait, to that.
I have to say the work of the boards and commission or committee is getting more exciting by the day. Jeanette, you and Brian, I mean, I think this is going to be exciting this summer, having this discussion. This is good discussion to have.
It is, and it's going to be very, very difficult, I can tell you, because
Yeah.
when I proposed raising the jury duty pay from $30 to $50, I don't remember, the estimate was something astronomical of what it would cost. And it took that money out of the judiciary. So.
Well, and this will be too, because as you said, we have over 300 commissions, right? Is that right, Brian? And
Something like that, I think, Brian, is it?
Yeah, there's a lot. And we've added probably another 50 to 75 this year. So
Mhm.
it's sort of like when the tide's coming in and you try to bail the boat.
well, we just
For every one we took off, there were 2 or more added.
added one in 435.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, are we ready?
Is it up?
Well, it was also emailed to us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
It should be up if you refresh your screen.
Okay.
I just keep getting 1.3.
Yeah, I do too. But I'm looking for email. And there it is in email. Thank you, Gail.
I got it.
There we go. Okay, got it.
And we
And
are
we'll
not,
autocorrect. Ameren, the reason that you see a bunch of different drafts is that it changed Ameren to American.
Yep.
I will fix that.
I have sent emails and signed them American by accident because it autocorrected.
American Ameren.
All right.
So Ameren, are we doing this H122 as a strike all? Or are we doing this as an our thing here as an amendment to H122.
So this is an amendment to
Okay.
H122. This would strike out just the effective date section from H122 and then add on the
Okay.
emergency management sections and the climate council per diem section.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
So the amendment would now read, you'll see changing the number of sections to 8, adding a new section 11A, which you'll see first here. The Vermont Climate Council, this is the language that we just reviewed. And then it would go into the remainder of the amendment as you have reviewed it before, with section 12 beginning the State Emergency Response Commission and regional committees and local emergency committees. And so the only other changes to this draft, which we mentioned last time, you'll see on page 3, we added in coordination with regional planning commissions and mutual aid associations. We went over that language on Tuesday.
Right.
And that appears also on page 4. And then we fixed the numbering for the commission, the State Emergency Response Commission membership on page 5 to match the additional 2 members that were added to the commission. And then I believe the only other change in here is at the very end of the bill. I'm still scrolling. This is a lengthy bill. Down on page 16, you'll see that we've added in and noted that section 11A, which would be the Vermont Climate Council per diem section, would, along with the other miscellaneous boards and commissions in the underlying H122, those sections will all take effect on passage, and then the Emergency Management Commission sections will take effect on July 1st.
okay. Anybody
have
want to offer an amendment? I mean, whatever those things are that we do.
Motion.
I
Yeah,
would offer
that word.
a motion to amend H122 with draft 1.5.
Okay. Senator Rom, do you want to call the roll?
Oh, yeah, sorry, okay. Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collmore,
No,
Senator Polina,
Yes.
myself, Senator Rom, yes, Senator White.
Yes.
That
So
is-
now do you want to do another motion?
Yes, I would move H122 as amended and suggest we vote it out favorably.
Okay. Senator Clarkson, don't take another bite of food.
I'm starved. Yes.
Okay, Senator Collmore,
yes,
Senator Polina,
Yes. Yes.
myself, Senator Rom, yes, Senator White.
Yes.
that
And
passes 5-0.
out of both Senator Collmore and I serve on the Sunset Commission, and normally I would ask him to report this bill since it comes from the Sunset Commission. But out of respect for him, if he would rather not, I'm happy to do it.
I appreciate that, Madam Chair, and I do have other work for the committee to report on next week anyway, with the charters and the
Yep.
eugenics resolution.
Yes, that is true. And I have no more to report. So, okay.
So Senator White, you'll be the reporter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Amran, if you'll send me a clean copy, then I'll get it to the floor, to our people.
And
I will
Gail
do
and I
that.
will get you the record of action as well.
Actually,
And if
nobody
you-
needs that record of action. It goes straight to the files.
Oh, I always send it to Bloomer. 'Cause he needs the vote from you, Senator White. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the final draft of the amendment.
Yes. So Amran, if you would also just give me some notes on your section by section thing here. So to remind me what we actually did.
Yeah.
For
So, you know,
the parts that you're amending, or H122 as a whole?
H122 also.
Whole
Yeah,
thing.
thank you.
yeah, she's kindly doing that for me for 289. And I'm finding that it's very frustrating to have an amendment and an underlying bill. It's great to do a strike all because a strike all just integrates it. So then you don't have to be going back and forth, which is frustrating.
I didn't try to go back and forth on the retirement bill. I just did it and figured
Right.
people could follow it
Yeah,
or not.
they can follow, yeah, but it's still with an H bill in particular, one that we haven't voted on. I think it's slightly different with S bills, but with H bills that the Senate hasn't seen yet, it does bear some explanation, I guess.
Okay, let's move to, thank you, committee. Thank you, Amron.
And Keisha, I hope you appreciate the the tornness of this discussion. I mean, it's just it's worthy, but it's also frustrating to have been asking to do something like this for a long time, and then we're just now doing it in this one off.
I appreciate that from the committee indulging me as a new member who doesn't have the same context. Appreciate that.
All right, so let's move on to, who do we have, which one do we have first? Underhill? Is that what? I can't remember which order we had it, and I will.
We do have Underhill, but we don't have Mr. Anderson yet.
All right. And who is Mr. Hooper, Representative Hooper here for? Is that Underhill?
140, Madam Chair, Williston.
Williston. So let's do Williston first then. Why don't you explain it to us? And when Tucker comes, he'll give us the real story. But we'll, if you would tell us what Williston is doing here, that would be great.
I'm not sure I want to fall to that bait, but originally in 140, there were several, good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair and Committee. I was dragged in from raking leaves, so I just threw the jacket on. Apologize. Originally, Williston asked for several changes that we did not find accommodating. The first was, and you have probably seen as a common occurrence, the ability to adopt any charter provision that another town has adopted, which Ledge Council advised us, and we agreed was an unconstitutional abrogation of our legislative prerogative, and therefore we denied to authorize that. The second, I think, was the change to the library commission structure, which had originally the library commission being able to discharge the library director, and that in the charter transferred over to the town manager with consultation to the library commission. And the third of significant was the collective bargaining impasse resolution provision, which we found to be flawed, I guess, on several levels. The most significant of which is, I think we agree that Vermonters expect to find a uniformity of law. And this change would have effectively said the Municipal Employees Labor Relation Act does not fully engage what happens in the town of Williston. And because of that, if we had approved this and had approved what we'll call the Fred has it, I want it too rule of being able to adopt other charter changes just by municipal action, we would have had the ability for this variation in the Labor Relation Act to spread all over the state. So people would not know in their work environment whether they were operating under one or the other. What it did, this particular proposal, was move from the strict timelines of the Labor Relations Act and move to a system where essentially people would have to agree to move forward into the next stage of either arbitration or collective bargaining resolution. And, you know, quite frankly, if people were that agreeable in this environment, you wouldn't be in the situation where you needed to go into arbitration or collective bargaining resolution in this way. So we really only found acceptable the change to the town library situation and the management thereof.
Oh, you didn't change that.
We granted that
Oh,
as they
I was-
passed it.
I was wondering why you would care who fires the librarian if the town wants to do it in such a way. So, okay.
We're staunch believers over in the House in the issue of library science, and we don't like to have that befouled in any way.
Okay, so what does the charter actually do? The only thing it does is allows the dismissal of the librarian in a different manner than currently exists.
Yeah, it changes the supervision effectively to the town manager structure.
Okay. Senator Collmore, did you have a question?
I did. Thank you, Madam Chair. So Representative Hooper, if I could trouble you for the vote in the town on this and also what the House vote was.
I would recollect that the House vote was the committee unanimously approved, and I do not have the municipal vote, I'm sorry to say.
Maybe Tucker does.
I believe Tucker does. I might, well, if there is another question, I can entertain that while I look through my recently organized pile of papers to see if I have that.
Well, you mentioned the committee vote. I'm assuming that on the floor, it was just a voice vote. I probably hear that you didn't have a roll call on the charter. Okay.
Okay, well,
And again, I can get that from Tucker at some point if I need to.
yeah. And I think that Senator Collmore, if you report this, I'm not sure that we need to report what the House took out.
I have no intention of doing that, Madam Chair. I'm just going to talk about what's in the charter. Yep.
Any questions about this?
Nope.
All right.
So
Senator Collmore?
Thank you,
Oh,
Madam
Senator
Chair.
Clarkson, did you have a question
Oh.
first?
I was just going to say, you're going to report on the only on the charter change as it came to us.
Yeah,
Means
Yeah.
you don't have to. Right.
And I'd like to move, Madam Chair, that we vote out H 140 favorably with no changes.
okay. Thank you. Senator Ram, would you like to?
Call the roll.
Mhm.
Okay, Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collmore,
Yes.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
myself, Senator Ram, yes, Senator White,
Yes.
and that,
And Senator
report.
Collmore, you
Yep.
will be you are our faithful charter reporter?
Yep.
Okay. So, we're 3 minutes ahead of ourselves. Do we know if Tucker is joining us? Or if anybody else is joining us for Underhill, Gail?
I have not heard from Tucker. I just sent him another invitation. I have not heard anything, unfortunately.
Bob? Bob, did you report that as well?
No, I did not.
All right, well, I'm gonna try and I'm gonna go and look for 45, page 45 and see what it says.
And Senator Collmore, in my notes, I do not have the town count, I'm sorry to say.
I appreciate you looking though, Representative Hooper, and I'll get it from Tucker. It just is sort of like important to show
No, it's important. I think it's important to know how the town supported it or
Yeah.
not.
Although if it only won by one vote, it still passed. Just as when we're elected, if we only win by one vote, we still win.
True.
Okay, so I'm looking at Underhill. And it only is 2 pages. And it is about the recall of elected town officers. Any elected town officer may be removed from office subject to the following conditions and procedures. A written petition that is signed by not less than 15% of the registered voters of the town, seeking the removal of the town officer or officers and requesting a vote of the town at a regular or special town meeting called for that purpose. Okay, or the select board, and then the select board shall call a special town meeting to be held within 45 days of receiving the petition to vote on whether the elected officer shall be removed, and it shall be by Australian ballot. When the petition is approved by a majority of the ballots cast at the town meeting, the town officer named in the petition shall cease to hold the office. A vacancy resulting from the recall of any officer shall be filled in the manner as prescribed by law, and a recall petition shall not be brought against an individual more than once within 12 months.
Gosh,
Harsh.
I know.
Well, you do have to have some method of recall, I guess.
No,
Yeah.
no, it isn't that. It's that you could do it. If it was 13 months, you could do it.
Oh. Well, the likelihood of that happening is probably not much because you'd have another town meeting in between some place, and you might have another election.
Yeah.
So, but
Do you know who reported this one, Bob?
I do not, I'm sorry to say. And quite frankly, I don't recollect it strongly enough to give you insight at this point. You say it's H45?
445.
445. It sounds reasonable to me. At least it's 15% of the registered voters instead of 5% or 2%. It's a considerable number of people have to agree that there should be a recall.
Well.
We had-
Like to have a little more
Representative
background.
Higley
Oh,
reported it.
Higley, okay.
Good work, Gail. How do you know that's I've always been puzzled how you find out who reported it. You have to go to the house calendar.
No, actually, it's easier than that. You go
Look
to
up the
the
bill.
bill and
Yeah.
you look at status.
Yeah.
And it
Oh.
shows the reporter right there.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for that's helpful because I was on the OPR bill. I had to ask Ameren because I of course I should have just known that. Thank you.
The only question I would have about this, if Tucker were here, just to make it interesting, I would ask him if right now there's no recall provisions for any towns. I just wonder if this sets, if this is a traditional thing to do or whether other towns have recall provisions or whether they never bothered. I'm just curious
There are,
what happens
I do
now.
know there are towns that have recall provisions. And I remember clearly one town that had, that came in and the House had approved the change and I thought it was so draconian, the way they were doing their recall, that I said I would approve the charter change because their town had voted on it. But had I lived in that town, I would have fought against the change. So I
Right.
do know that other towns do have recall provisions. Okay, well, what do you want to do, committee?
Well, I'd like a little more background on it, but
Why can't we wait till Tucker presents it? I mean,
We can, I just,
I think that's what I'd prefer, is just to get a sense, a little bit more sense around it.
okay. So we then seem to have 11 minutes before our next, at 2:15, we're going to take up the resolution. Do we
Great.
want to move
We-
that forward and take it up right now?
Is Michael available?
I don't know, we had 2:15. I did ask people to kind of be aware that timing would be a little fluky, but
Maybe Gail could see if Michael was available.
Yeah, I'll send him an invitation right now.
okay. And is the final one posted on our website? I'm gonna look and see.
It is.
It
Okay.
is under Michael Chernick. It's draft 2.2.
Okay. I don't know why I get myself so boggled up here.
Madam Chair, will you require anything else from me?
Yes, we require you to stay here so you don't have to rake.
Tea and crumpets.
How's
No,
government-
thank you,
how's
Representative
government
Hooper.
operations Took the afternoon off, so
I'm sorry. It does,
You're-
we do not, but thank you for joining us.
sorry.
And you
We're
are
glad-
more than welcome to stay.
Oh, thank you.
Enjoy the sunshine, Bob, for us.
Thank you. I will. Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, see ya.
So we have the final version up.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Is it draft 2.2?
Yes,
Yes. I skimmed through it. Didn't we add something about women?
yes, it's there
I
online.
just can't find that part.
It's the second whereas, lines 14 through 17.
Oh, I see it now. Thanks.
And sterilizations and women are on line 16.
Michael will be joining us in 5 minutes.
Okay. It would be nice if we could just write these without whereases in front of everything we want to say, because it just makes it seem so funny. And he got in the thing about Perkins.
Yep, he did. No, he's done a nice job incorporating everything that we
Mhm.
have discussed. And it's sort of fun to see all these bills with the same number of the bills we're reporting now. So S79, which was referred to sadly, I'm sad S79 in 1925 or whenever it was such an appalling bill. You know, where was it? Oh, in 1912. Having done 79 this year. Sort of fun to see that.
Madam Chair, I'm set to start whenever.
Oh, okay, I think we're just each reading through the final resolution as you sent it to us.
And I'm happy to go over once you start the specific places where there are changes.
Okay, why don't we do that then?
Are you okay? Very good.
Okay.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. This is for the record. It's Michael Chernick from Legislative Council. We met over the last couple of days as you've been reviewing JRH2, the eugenics resolution, and what the document I transmitted late this morning represents the changes you requested yesterday. And so I will go over this and quickly bypass those clauses that remain unchanged. The title, of course, the intro language is no change. In the first whereas clause, the only addition is I've identified. Madam, did somebody ask me something? Oh, in the first clause, I have identified Nancy Gallagher as the author of Breeding Better Vermonters. No other changes in that clause. In the second clause, there are no changes. In the third clause, no change.
No, in the second one, you put primarily of women.
Oh,
And through sterilization.
sterilizations, that's absolutely correct. The reference to sterilizations and women is now there. There is indeed no change in the third clause. The fourth clause, we've had the word vetoed in there now. I think that may have been in yesterday, but it's now vetoed resolution and legislation. And as I had said earlier, a couple of days ago I added in the word nevertheless, which the committee has already agreed upon.
Yep.
The 1925 clause, your change there, I now have at the request of the committee and initially from Senator Rahm, and served as president of the American Eugenics Society. By the way, it's a society and not an American Eugenics Survey.
Thank you.
I double checked that, it's a society. This is a new clause concerning poor persons and mental and physical disabilities that you talked about yesterday. These state sanctioned policies targeted the poor and persons with mental and physical disabilities. That was a clause you asked me to add in at that point, and so there it is.
And it really kind of duplicates what we said above, delinquent, defective, and dependent, but I think it makes it very clear that that's who they meant.
In the
Thank
next
you.
clause, I've slightly changed it to at the intro language to read these same policies so that you're not repeating these state sanctioned policies verbatim twice.
Mhm.
And again, I have now left the language at the end, now identified as Abenaki or as members of other indigenous bands or tribes. That's the language you saw yesterday. It's no change from yesterday.
Mhm.
The S59 language, that penultimate clause on page 2 is the same. The following clause that goes on to page 3.
Michael, you just got yourself on mute.
You managed to mute yourself.
My apologies to the committee, it was not intended. So
We didn't think so.
I don't know how that happened, but it did. The wonders of Zoom. Going back again to backtrack slightly, the last complete clause on page 2 and the clause that flows into page 3 remain as you've seen previously. And for that matter, all the clauses on page 3, I believe, are as you saw yesterday, no changes. Going on to page 4, there's that lost clause, which I believe you saw yesterday, concerning the legacy of the eugenics movement. What we made the slight change, actually, it now reads that the eugenics movement continues to influence. It read slightly differently yesterday.
Mhm.
And then at that point, the first resolve remains as you've seen before. The second resolve now reads, continues to work to eradicate lasting legacy of its prior actions by listening to and working with the affected individuals and communities. I believe that's language that's most recently been slightly tweaked. And then the final resolve is new to this, the Senate version, but it's not new to the resolution. It is verbatim, as you discussed yesterday, the final resolve clause in the version that passed the House. And that's it as of right now.
Comments, questions, committee?
Good job, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
I
You
think
did a great job.
grand job. Really is sensitive, thoughtful, beautifully done.
Thank you,
I
members.
agree.
So, do we have a motion? Senator Collmore,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that the committee vote out, amend, first of all, JRH 2 with draft 2.2.
okay. Senator Ram, do you want to call the roll?
I will. I always wait to see if there's like debate or something. Maybe I should stop doing that, or someone like objecting. I will jump on it more. Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collmore,
Yes.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
myself, Senator Ram, yes. And
Now
Senator
I'd
White,
like to
Yes.
further, I'm sorry.
No, go.
I paused.
I'd like to further move that the committee vote out JRH 2 as amended favorably.
Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collmore,
Yes.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
myself, Senator Ram, yes. Senator White.
Yes. And Senator Collmore, you are going to report?
I will.
Thank you. So I just want to say, again, thank you to everybody for working on this, I think. And probably no one is watching right now, but whoever is knows that this was taken very seriously. And we are very thankful to all the people who came in and told their own stories and stories of other people and helped us to understand the true horrific part of our history that this reflects. So I think that that was very helpful to us. I know it was very helpful to me, and I appreciate everybody's input.
Michael, if I could ask for your help with any floor note ideas that you might have, I'd appreciate that.
What would you like, Sen? What I can do is legislative council can write you, so to speak, a section by section. I can't, it's not my role to write an advocacy piece, you understand. And unlike in a bill, you literally have, I mean, if you want me to be writing a piece that spells out again the resolve clause, and I can write you a couple of lines to the effect of that it goes over the history of the eugenics movement, and that it comes to the actions that the Senate committee believes need to be taken. That's something I can do. I just need to be careful that I'm not writing you a verbatim piece of advocacy.
And I understand.
It's not my role as leg counsel.
And I understand, appreciate that. Why don't you
One
send?
time that I write advocacy is within the resolution. Yeah, that's my role to write advocacy within the resolution. But in terms of a floor speech, no.
So Senator Collmore, I would also suggest, I know that you weren't here the day that we took the first testimony. You might just listen to that. It wasn't very long, but there was a lot of information there from Judy Dow and Carol, and also from Tanya Marshall.
Yes, so Michael, if you just send me whatever you think, and if I use it, I do. If I don't, please don't be offended.
No,
don't
no,
wanna
I
make
won't
this-
be in any way, believe me.
I don't want to make it too long a report, because quite honestly, it's a 5-page resolution now. And I intend, obviously, on reading every whereas and every resolution. So I just want to do it. I want to do it properly. That's all.
Yeah.
So that leads me to my question, which is on a resolution of this import. I believe it was read in full on the House floor.
Yeah, I think that
And I believe we should ask Bloomer to read it in full.
It was not read, Madam Chair, if I may, just as a point of information for this question. I believe it was never read on the floor in its entirety, but you
Ah.
certainly are and here's my but, you are certainly within your rights to request as a committee, the secretary to read it verbatim from the floor at the time of the consideration.
Okay, I was thinking that the secretary would just read the, like he does the name of the
title.
bill, and then Senator Collmore would actually read it, because
Either way, I
You
think
could
it-
do that as well.
I
Either-
think that I would prefer it that way, because otherwise there's really, I mean, no, I would prefer it that way. And then Senator Collmore can give a little background and introduction and stuff about it and then read it.
I think that would be great. I really think it needs to be read in full.
Yeah,
Oh, I
think
don't
so too.
disagree. And in fact, that was my plan, Madam Chair. If
Yeah.
I let the secretary do it, there's really no reason to do a report.
Right,
Okay, I just didn't know. I just wanted to make sure we read it in full.
yeah. I
Excuse
think
me,
that,
the doorbell has just, I've just got to,
and Senator Collmore, I'll make sure that Bloomer knows that that's the way we as a committee want to do it.
Thank you.
And Senator, I will send you a few paragraphs that are objective, non-descriptive, but objective, that explain what in effect, the high points of what the resolution's intended to do. But as again, my comments will not have any advocacy. They'll simply be, what does it do?
Right.
Okay,
So it's a strike all too. So this will go back to the House.
Yes,
Yes,
it
and
needs to go
I-
back to the House.
and I have kept Tom Stevens aware of what we're doing.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Michael.
You're very welcome, Senators. Have a good weekend. Senator Collmore, I will get you something by, say, 10 o'clock tomorrow night at the very latest. If
Oh,
that's
there's no-
later.
Yeah, there's no need for that. This won't be on the floor until at least Tuesday, perhaps Wednesday.
It'll be Wednesday that it's on, okay, Wednesday that it's on the floor, as it'll go on notice Tuesday, and then assuming that there isn't a move to suspend rules to take it up immediately, which it sounds not, it would be Wednesday for deliberation.
Yeah, so you don't need to hustle you have all weekend to get whatever you want to put together. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Senators. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
I see somebody else is here with us, but that annoying thing that says live transcription has
Tucker.
been enabled is covering it up, so I can't tell who it is. Oh, and there it is, our very own Tucker. Okay, so Tucker, would you like to walk us through the Underhill charter? And then I'm not sure, we got released the Wilmington charter this morning. So if that is, if we can pull that up somehow from the, the passed as by the House, we can do that too and get them both done. Oh, pretty. Did somebody just deliver flowers to you?
yes, William, this is William's Mother Day present.
Aw.
Wow.
I know you guys get to share them.
Okay, so Tucker, let's do Underhill first.
All right, good afternoon, Tucker Anderson, Legislative Counsel. Let's try to pull this back up in front of me. H445 contains the approval of the amendments to the Charter of the Town of Underhill. There is one instance of amendment here. It is the addition of a new section relating to the recall of elected town officers. The section sets up the procedures and conditions for the voters to petition for and vote on a recall of an elected town officer. It states that any elected town officer may be removed from office subject to the following procedures. First, a written petition that is signed by not less than 15% of the registered voters of the town seeking the removal of the town officer or officers, so they potentially could name the entire legislative body if they wanted to, and requesting a vote of the town at a regular or special town meeting called for that purpose shall be filed with the town clerk. So there's a lot of language there, but essentially 15% of the voters can petition to remove an officer or officers by filing a petition with the town clerk. Second, the select board shall call a special town meeting to be held within 45 days of receiving the petition to vote on whether the officer shall be removed, and that vote shall be held by Australian ballot. So as soon as the petition is filed, the clock starts ticking. They have 45 days to hold the special election. When a petition is approved by a majority of the ballots cast at the special town meeting, the officer named in the petition shall cease to hold the office. A vacancy resulting from the recall of the officer shall be filed in the manner prescribed by law. So you had already dealt with this again, relating to Wilmington. So you know that the procedure involves a declaration of the vacancy. There's the temporary filling and then a subsequent vote by the town to fill the office. A recall petition shall not be brought against an individual more than once within 12 months. So you get one bite at the apple per year to file your petition for this recall. And that's all that they're doing here.
Senator Colmore?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could, Tucker, and you may not know the answer, and you may, do you know what prompted this? And if not, I can certainly ask Mark Higley, who was the reporter on the bill. And the other question I had was, how many other towns in Vermont have recall provisions?
So part one, I cannot answer for you. I don't know what the circumstances are that triggered this. I would recommend reaching out to the representatives from Underhill and Jericho. They may know. So that would be Representative Squirrel and Representative Till. For the second part, there are more than a dozen recall provisions. They're very similar in how the procedures play out, but each town has its own threshold for how many voters are required to sign on to the petition before the recall procedures are triggered. And the scope is anywhere from 10% of the registered voters all the way up to 35 and 40%. And I had already prepared a list of all the various recall provisions. So I will forward that list to you and the committee to take a look at.
Do you recall what the town vote was on this?
I do not, but I do have the materials and I can send those along as well, so you can take a look at the votes.
And we had Representative Hooper in earlier on the Williston charter, and he could not remember what the town vote was on that either. So if you could provide me with, as you normally do with charters, I'll be the one reporting. So on both Williston and Underhill, if you could do a quick section by section, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. And that is definitely not Representative Hooper's fault. I believe the Williston charter is almost 2.5 years old by this point. So the all of the votes and everything are in a file somewhere at the state archives instead of on hand.
We just didn't take it up?
It got pushed off because it was voted at the end, I think, of the 2019 session. And then when the new session picked back up and COVID hit around the time that the House starts considering its charters, it just didn't make it last year.
Okay.
So it was revived this year.
Yeah.
We better hope they still want it.
Yeah.
So Tucker, do you know the number of the Wilmington charter change? I've been trying to find it.
I believe that the number is H443. And for your purposes and anyone else who wants to pull up the document, if you go to the General Assembly's website and in the search bar type in H443, you should be able to pull up the as passed by House document.
Yep.
That is now on our committee page as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Gail.
Sure.
Do you want to walk us through that? And I know we haven't had any warning for this, but if it's pretty non-controversial, and I do know that the town of Wilmington would like to get this settled.
I'd be happy to walk you through.
Oh, did we vote on the last one?
I didn't want to interrupt, but we didn't.
Oh, okay. I am so sorry. Let's do that. I'm for some reason in my mind I'd already passed it. Yes, Senator Colmore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that the committee vote out H445 favorably with no amendments.
Which one is that? That's not Underhill, is it? You wanted more time. Oh, it is Underhill.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted more time with it.
No, we just wanted Tucker.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
Williston, 445.
No. Williston is 140.
Oh, sorry, Williston's 140.
This is Underhill. This is the
This is Underhill.
recall measure.
I see why
believe I
Senator
made the right
Collmore is in
motion.
charge
I
of this.
think I made the right motion.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Okay, Senator Rom, do you want to call the roll?
Yes. Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collmore,
Yes.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
myself, Senator Rom, yes. Senator White.
Yes.
Okay. passes.
And Senator Collmore, you as our charter reporter?
Be glad to.
Okay, thank you.
I think we could call you our charterist.
I would be honored.
Somebody's
What do you
got to
think,
do it.
Tucker? Do you think we could do that? And did you,
The
Did-
will and wisdom of the General Assembly is boundless, so you could definitely do that.
well, did you know about Senator White's birthday and the charters that were enacted on her birthday? It's amazing that this popped up, but that in 1194, King Richard I gave Portsmouth its first royal charter. And in 1670, King Charles II granted a permanent charter to the Hudson Bay Company. That's amazing for us.
On my birthday,
On her birthday.
he knew, they knew, the two Charleses. Okay, let's go to Wilmington.
So the Wilmington piece in front of you is actually not a charter. It is a special law dealing with the dissolution of their water district. So what this bill does is it dissolves the Wilmington Water District. It transfers property, assets, and liabilities to the town and formally approves the merger that was voted on by both of the municipalities. So we'll start with the substantive provisions in section 2. And this is the entire bill is in section 2. It's the plan of merger. And this is, with the exception of one small nuance that I'll cover later on, this is the exact language that was passed by each of the municipalities. So this is the plan of merger. Subsection A contains some mundane definitions for town and district. The town of Wilmington and the Wilmington Water District are the town and the district.
Sorry, but what's the number of the bill? I'm trying to get it off the website and
It's H443.
thank you.
Okay,
Subsection B provides that on June 30th, 2021, the district and the town shall merge just into the town of Wilmington. The district shall, except as provided further on, cease to exist as a political entity, and its charter shall be revoked. That language was in the plan of merger, but I was able to confirm that there are no charters for either the town or for the water district. Subsection C just provides that all provisions of the Constitution and the general law of the state relating to municipalities shall continue to apply to the town, that the town shall have all the powers that are granted by general law, and that nothing under this act shall be construed as a limitation on the powers that the town has under general law. Subsection D provides that upon the effective date of the act, all of the properties, including lands, buildings, easements, funds, and uncollected taxes, any tangible or intangible property of the district shall become vested in the town. All liabilities, obligations, and indebtedness of the water district shall be assumed by the town, and any indebtedness of the district assumed by the town shall be secured by the full faith and credit of the town, and this is important, with respect to the properties comprising the body corporate of the district. So I know that in the past, there's a lot of nervousness about enterprises such as water districts being supported by all of the voters in the town, because you put the taxing authority of the town on the hook if that enterprise gets in over its head with its debt. But here it's stating very specifically that the full faith and credit of the town, just with respect to the properties that are served by the water district. will be on the hook here. Properties held in trust. Any and all properties that are held in trust by the Board of Trustees of the district shall become vested in the select board of the town and its successors, and shall continue to be held in trust for the same users of the district as prior to the merger. In subsection F, the district is required to settle its financial affairs prior to the merger, and shall turn over and deliver to the town the necessary records, books, and documents that the town needs to evaluate that the affairs of the district have been settled. In subsection G, this is a bit of a belts and suspenders provision. It states that the town shall be continued to be administered by a town manager after the merger. I don't know why they were worried about that being superseded here, but they built it in.
That is interesting that they somehow thought that maybe somebody else was going to take over the administering the town.
Or that by being silent on the issue that the merger would somehow supersede their town manager system. But
Okay.
they were careful and put this in, so it's here. Subsection H in the form in front of you as passed the House states that the general fund of the district shall be held by the town as a separate enterprise fund. So this is very consistent with how municipalities operate enterprises. The funds that are related to that enterprise are kept separate from the general fund. This is the one piece that the House amended, because as the merger was written, it stated that the general fund of the district was going to get put into and commingled with the general fund of the town, and they would operate the enterprise out of a separate pocket of the general fund. And the House noticed that's a problem and amended this to state that the town is going to hold this separate from its general fund as an enterprise fund. Subsection I provides that any existing laws, rules, policies, ordinances that are used for the administration of the district are going to carry over through the merger and will be administered by the town. So they'll stay in effect even though the district is disappearing. Subsection J, the town shall have the officers as provided for towns by general law. The members of the select board that are in office at the effective date of the merger will continue in office. And if there are district trustees whose terms extend beyond the date of the merger, well, their terms are going to expire once the municipalities merge. District trustees go away, belts and suspenders saying that the select board of Wilmington gets to stay in place. Subsection K, the water system shall be maintained separately from all the other departments of the town, and the revenues from the water system that are not necessary for current expenditures shall be placed in a special fund, no part of which may be used for any purpose other than the operation of the water department. This is again fairly standard for municipal enterprises. Subsection L provides the details for the water administration. First, all water rates of the district or town that were in effect on the effective date of the merger shall continue in effect until changed by the select board. Operating costs of the water department shall be paid by the ratepayers. The charges and rates for water service shall be a lien upon real estate wherever located that has been furnished with that service in the same manner and to the same effect as taxes are a lien upon real estate under Title 32. The owner of the property furnished with water service shall be liable for charges and rates. This is identical to what is provided under general law for water and sewer works. So any municipality that operates this type of enterprise can use the same form of lien. All water charges shall be set by the select board at rates sufficient to pay operating costs and for the maintenance of the system, to pay debt service on all existing and future debt obligations issued to improve or support the systems, and to fund necessary capital reserves. And again, this is mirroring general law. A departure here from the current operation of the system. The select board is going to serve as the water commissioners. So they are not going to set up a separate board to operate this enterprise. Subsection M deals with the special funds. The town treasurer or the finance director shall keep all revenues derived from the water systems in separate accounts that are kept segregated from special funds and from other town funds, and will not honor any warrant on those accounts except for the purposes established in subsection L. Subsection N, we have a severability clause. Those of you who have dealt with charters for a long time in the past, these used to be very common, and every charter had a severability clause. They're not favored anymore. They're mostly contract provisions, but as this is a merger and an agreement between two municipalities, the water district in Wilmington thought it was necessary. So it's here. And that's all.
So I just have a question about the effective date. If they want to do this on June 30th and the bill doesn't become effective till July 1st, are they screwed? Should we change it to effective upon passage?
So it's interesting that there's a difference there. As you know, the way that the acts of the General Assembly work, 1 second past midnight on the day that is named in the effective date, all of this language is going to become effective. So there's going to be a 24-hour difference between the effective date of the merger within the bill and the effective date of the merger at the end.
Why don't we just make it effective upon passage?
You certainly can.
Yeah, I had the same question. Did the House talk about that, or it was never brought up?
It was not brought up in the House.
Because
I think
the last time we had something from Wilmington, remember we had the question because they had no way to recall or to fill a vacancy. And we thought we were doing them a favor by making it on passage, and we got the word back from Representative Gannon that there was no need to because they figured it out. So,
well, I think we should check because I even though there's only a 24-hour period there, I just wonder if somebody could challenge the merger because the law hadn't taken effect yet.
yeah, I think we need to talk to John Gannon. I also
Okay.
had a question about, you can go back to page 3, right at the top. Prior to the effective date of the act, the district shall settle so far as possible its financial affairs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So is that already being done, or is there enough time? In other words, if we move the passage date, now I'm kind of backing myself in a corner here. Will they have time to do that?
I
Well,
think
it says
that's another.
prior to the merger, which would be on June 30th.
Well, yeah, but this says prior to the effective date of this act.
Oh, I see. Got it.
The district shall settle as far as possible its financial affairs. If we
Got
make it effective on passage, they're not going to have a lot of time to settle any affairs.
Let's make it effective upon the effective date of June 29th.
It's fine with me. Maybe we need to talk to John though.
Yeah,
I would suggest
will.
we talk to John. It's his town. He's a select board member.
yeah.
And this is the second thing we've done for him this session. Wilmington is clearly he's getting their house in order.
Okay, so what I'll do is schedule this for, see if he can come and join us on Tuesday.
That would be great. I mean, it's just the dates are really a challenge here. It's like, well, not that big a challenge.
Well, they seem to be, but if I know John Gannon, there's some reason and thought behind these dates too. It isn't just happenstance.
Yes.
All right, so we will schedule that for Tuesday. Thank you, Tucker. Any questions for Tucker about this?
Nope.
No, but I'm going to email Tucker a question about something else.
Okay. So committee, we're I apologize for scheduling this. I had some requests and talked to Senator Pearson about the broadband bill. And so we're going, he had a couple concerns and a couple other people had some concerns, and we're just going to look at the governance structure and the issues and just hear what those issues are. I don't know that there's anything we can do or, I mean, there are all kinds of suggestions out there, but, and I do know that some members of the CUDs have been alerted and are going to be watching this, as well as Commissioner Tierney has been.
We've already heard from some of them.
Not on this issue.
On H360? No,
We've never had that bill.
right, okay. This is just on the, okay, right.
Yeah. So it is posted, it's H360. And what I'm going to suggest is that we take there's Senator Pearson. Senator Pearson, would you be amenable to us taking just a 5-minute break here so we can stand up and get our legs circulating again?
I would be. I probably need to go by 3 if you can handle
Oh,
that.
well, let's can we just do it then, committee?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, all right, let's just do it.
And
All right. I appreciate that. Sorry.
Okay, so do you want to just give us heads up on, and I know that Steve Whitaker is, I think, joining us by phone, and he has sent us a list of a number of recommendations, I think 17 of them. Would you just give us kind of a thumbnail
Yes.
sketch of what it is we're looking at?
Yes, I would say our hope is you can explore a couple of issues, a fairly narrow set of issues for us. One is we set up a community broadband board that's 3 members. We give them a per diem of $250 because this is got a bunch of charges, but it is a granting body by and large. And they're not just rolling in, going to get some documents and send out millions of dollars. We're assuming for the one day that they meet, there's a bunch of lead-in work, and we want, serious people to be willing to do this. So we peg that per diem. Washington Electric gets $100 per meeting, board members, and VEC gets $375, I think it was. So we peg something in the middle there. So the per diem, but having a 3-member board is a little tricky because any 2 of them talking creates a quorum. And so we wrestled with this a little bit. We liked it being a streamlined 3-member board. The governor appoints a chair, House and the Senate appoint a member. We like that construct, but we were a little afraid that they're pretty hamstrung by the fact that no 2 of them can talk ever other than an open meeting, and didn't know if you all had ideas about that, if you've dealt with it on the Cannabis Control Board, how we have navigated that. But any advice, or maybe you'd conclude there is no advice, would love your input there. And then the last issue has to do with trade secrets. And this is tricky. The CUDs, and this really applies to the CUDs, they're communication union districts, they're municipalities. So they operate under our open meeting laws, I believe. We wanted to make it clear they do. On the other hand, they are also operating as businesses and in competition with private businesses. And so, if Pearson's cable company can just go sit at the board meeting of my competitors, that creates some problems. So there is the general understanding that some of the information could be kept for a while, kept secret for a while until, while plans are being developed. The draft and the House had pegged it to trade secrets, I believe. And there are folks who tell me we should go with sovereign, I don't know, a different standard. There's been some court cases. I don't understand any of that. I said, Madam Chair, could we please ask GovOps for help on these questions? So it's really the quorum issues, the per diem. We'd love some support with that. And then this trade secrets, is there a better way to deal with that challenging dynamic of accountability in the business sphere?
Okay. Yes, Senator Clarkson?
Yeah, and Jeanette, yes, we have already started to get emails about this. So
Yeah, oh, yes, we have. We haven't talked about it in committee.
right. So Chris, going into executive session doesn't count. I mean, that's a fairly standard way that we discuss going into,
No, they have the right to go into executive session, but usually that's around contracts. That's pretty limited, right? And
is it? I don't know that executive session is limited.
Oh, it is limited.
Oh yeah. You got to
But,
move.
It also says there is one that would disadvantage the municipality if certain information was made public before. I mean, it isn't just around contracts. I'm trying to find it right now, but it's
Personnel.
clearly,
Yeah.
well, it clearly says any information that would disadvantage something like doing a safety plan or emergency exit plan for your town hall, or things like that would disadvantage. And I would think that something like this would definitely fall under that.
Exactly. So one thing that might be simplest is either to take a look at executive session definition and expand it in an appropriate way.
That is very complicated. We are not going to have time to do that, but I do believe that something like that it would fall under that. I
would think so too.
Well, that maybe handles some of the meeting concerns. And maybe you can just tell us there's no way to deal with it. But if 3 senators are a committee, and Polina and I are on that committee, and I call Polina to see what he's having, if he can make it for drinks, we literally are barred from meeting. And I don't know how you deal with that. Maybe we stipulate it. For a while, I remember when I sat on GovOps, we dealt with this for 3-member select boards. They're allowed to socialize as long as they don't blah, blah, blah. For a while, Maria Royale is the drafter on this. She had referenced those sections of statute. Then that allows you to socialize, but didn't really deal with the idea that you may want to plan with one of your board members. I don't know how you deal with that. We recognize it as a problem, and I'm glad you're on it.
It's clearly allowed if it's administrative or logistical conversations. When are we going to meet? What should we put on the agenda? How are we going to do this? But not substantive discussions. I think that's, other than that, there is no solution, I don't think.
Okay. Well, my hope would be you all would dig into this without me, just enough to be able to say something on the floor if you felt compelled to, or help us understand it a little better.
Okay. So Senator Clarkson.
So how do a very high profile 3-person boards deal with that? How does the PUC deal with it?
They don't talk to each other about substantive issues. They shouldn't be.
Well, the PUC is a judicial, so we asked that. They're totally out of it. I don't know how the Cannabis Control Board, as an example, or liquor control, how they do it.
They're just figuring it out.
Well, I've had this conversation with Pepper, and the bottom line is they're not a they're not a judicial body. So they can't talk, two people can't talk to each other about substantive issues. It's just as simple as that.
Okay.
It just seems like that's asking, that's in a way kind of an absurd bar that, you know, because to prepare for a meeting, you may have to talk about stuff. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to limit people from, I mean, when you're talking about the substance publicly anyway, once you've got it all organized, but you're going to be talking about it publicly in some capacity.
The problem is if you have a quorum of the board and they decide how they're going to present it and how they're going to talk about it, and the public has no knowledge of that and what's going on, and they come to the meeting and say, okay, this is on the agenda, we're going to talk about this now, and they've already agreed to what they're going to talk about and how they're going to present it, that can't happen. It just can't happen. They can say, let's do this agenda this way. Let's meet at 3 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock. Who should we have come in and talk to us? But they can't do any substantive business. And I'm sorry, but either we don't have 3-member boards or we don't have an open meeting law.
Okay, well, you know, it's not for me to debate.
I know.
If that has to be the answer, then we can live with that, I guess.
I just, to back up the chair's point, it would set a precedent that would be hard to argue against for our 3-member select boards around the state. I mean, they have a hard time meeting this far, but they have to do that. And to the extent that they want to have, or their town has decided they have a 3-member select board, they have to deal with this all the time. And who are we to sort of say that's too hard?
No, I find, I mean, the open meeting law is onerous. It's hard to function under a lot of
it
the time.
is, and there's reason for it.
So anyway, I often think we should revisit some of it for some of these reasons. I mean, I think this is, I don't think it's necessarily serving the public or the board to not allow people to do some work in preparation for a meeting that is going to be public.
But
Anyway.
Senator Clark said there are already quite a few exemptions to that open meeting law.
Yes.
Every time we open the door, there's considerable pushback from people that feel there's already too many exemptions. So I don't think that there's an answer that's easily gotten here.
And we redid the entire open meeting thing about 5 years ago, and the public records, but particularly the open meetings, about when what the cure is if somebody had a meeting in secret and did things, how you deal with that. So yeah. Anyway, thank you, Senator Pearson. And I think that I'm going to ask Steve Whitaker to
I'm here.
Oh, the trade secrets. I'm going to check and see if that isn't covered, because I don't think that these are trade secrets and how you deal with them. And the meeting itself, as opposed to the documents generated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't pretend to understand them, these issues, and it has been a concern. I think the timeline where it's secret and then released makes some sense. Actually, Mr. Whitaker may have some input on trade secrets versus sovereign documents or something like that, and the court cases. But if that's all you need from me, Madam Chair, I'm just a text message away. And thank you. Ideally, this would be on the floor Tuesday. So keep in touch with us. If an extra day makes a difference, I would imagine that might be possible, but it's really not for me to say.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask Steve to weigh in on the issues that you've presented to us, and any comments also on what Senator Pearson had.
Okay, for the record, Stephen Whitaker. Can you hear me all right?
Thank you.
Okay, so starting with the trade secrets issue, what I've experienced is I was the Montpelier delegate to CV Fiber when it first started, or the alternate, and they began having this discussion and decided to start keeping plans, business plans, financial viability models, etc., in secrets. I am no longer on that board. I was replaced by Ken Jones, who is an expert financial analyst. But again, when I've asked for copies of the business plans and financial viability analysis, they've redacted all that and claimed it's a trade secret. That premature release of the information would create an unfair advantage or disadvantage to the municipality. But here's some foundation perspective on that, is that the CUDs were created and are repeatedly in every conversation charged with addressing a market failure and serving the unserved and underserved areas where it's not been economical for the commercial providers to go. So to basically take that fundamental understanding of why we're creating municipalities to fill this void and then claiming that they're being competed against by the commercial entities is somewhat of a logical disconnect. So either they are addressing a market failure and they're filling the unserved areas, or they're in competition with Comcast, but Comcast and Consolidated have never wanted to serve these areas adequately. So there's kind of a logical flaw there. But more importantly, and more recently, the communications union districts have retained counsel to study this issue. And then they use that legal research to persuade the department, one of the department lawyers, Jim Porter's wife, that they are deserving of trade secret protection. Now, luckily, the day before she arrived at that opinion, they gave me some of the business plans. So I've had that's more of a humorous twist of timing. But in that is the Winooski Housing Authority was sued by the Roman Catholic Church that had donated land for affordable housing. And the court, as Winooski was building their building the foundation for their affordable housing, they were driving steel piles down into the ground, and it cracked parts of the church's foundation or whatever. And this is a preliminary read, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just going to give you the brief of. But in effect, the court ruled, it went to the Supreme Court, and the court ruled that, Vermont Supreme Court ruled that there are essential government functions, and you'll find in the preamble to this bill, H360, that we're beginning to try to refer to broadband as an essential government functions, alike with electricity, etc. But then there are proprietary functions of government, which are optional. And those proprietary functions of government are entitled to trade secret protections, but the essential government functions are entitled to sovereign immunity. So having worked for close to 30 years on our 911 system and still not gotten it to a level of sufficient reliability, I think if these municipalities and the CUDs were fully informed, they would opt to have their sovereign immunity in case a missed router table, a software update blocks a 911 call and somebody dies. They're going to need that sovereign immunity a whole lot more than they're going to need secrets for serving an area that nobody else wants to serve anyway. So this may require further study. I think the references to it, especially claims that you can have trade secrets for a little while and then they evaporate, that's so vague because it's the trade secret exemption as worded evaporates when the system is complete. But these systems are never going to be complete. You could see that can kick down the road 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, because they're always going to be adding fiber, and it's all part of the same system. So it's an issue that may require legal analysis and may become part of a summer study, but that's the gist of it. That how are we going to hold these public dollars accountable if we're not allowed to dig into the basis and the assumptions built into the financial model? There's a real concern that these CUDs are not financially stable or sustainable because they've not been allowed to build into the areas where Comcast and Consolidated are, which happens to be where the money is. You're going to need the customers from the built areas to cross-subsidize the rural areas, and otherwise these CUDs are going to be at risk of bankruptcy. And there's already concerns raised with EC Fiber being $50 million in debt and $110 monthly rates, and Consolidated plans to build in those same areas, and they're offering a $35 a month rate for 50 megabits per second symmetric. So you could see even EC Fiber, the granddaddy and most established CUD, get on shaky ground if they have to start competing against a $35 rate instead of 110. So again, this is why we need the transparency. But while I'm mentioning EC Fiber, I was attending meetings of EC Fiber for a long time. I would take Charlie Larkin down there. We'd drive to the law school. The governing board there has delegated the entire operation to ValleyNet, being a nonprofit. And so when I ask for records from EC Fiber, I'm met with we don't have any records. We're spending millions and borrowing and spending millions and millions of dollars, but we don't have any records. ValleyNet has all the records, and they're a nonprofit, not subject to public records law. So I use the word offshoring. I think you need to address the issue. A municipality is not allowed to offshore its records so that they're not accessible by the public. And that's exactly what has happened with EC Fiber and ValleyNet. And ValleyNet is attempting to expand that model across. So there's a real issue there. I should stop and catch my breath and let you ask some questions.
So I know that this is a huge issue, but I do believe that the difference between an essential government function and a proprietary function needs to be resolved. And my understanding was that the CUDs have hired legal expertise to help them over the summer try to figure that out and where they should be. But I will say that I do believe that there is a need for much of their business plan, that a lot of their business plan and their build out plan and everything, if it were prematurely released, it would have a bad effect on the CUD itself. And they are struggling to fill where the market wouldn't do it. And now what we're seeing with EC Fiber is now that they've done it, now Consolidated is coming in and saying, well, now we'll take over and now we'll do it. But they wouldn't do that before. And I have real concerns that we put the CUDs at a disadvantage by telling them that they have to give up their records, but that the privates don't, or the for-profits don't. And it reminds me a little bit about my dear friend Tom Yan, who actually just died, who he and I were both field workers for continuing education programs. I for the University of Vermont and he for Norwich. And I would have an idea. I'm a public and he's a private. And I would have an idea for a program that we could offer, a degree that we could offer in the Southern Vermont area that would be very valuable, and it would generate income for the University of Vermont. And so I would bring up this idea at the meetings that we were having. And by George, the next, and public entities move very slowly. And by the next meeting, he already had that degree in place through Norwich, because they were private for profit and they could work quickly. So I fear that we would be putting the public, the municipalities at a huge disadvantage by requiring them to turn over their business plans and their rollout plans and their poll inventories and whatever else it is that they have. So I just wanted to point that out, and also to say that they are charged with going where the for-profits wouldn't go. And the reason the for-profits wouldn't go is because there was no profit to be made. And the same thing happened with the REAs. And the only way northern Minnesota got electricity was through the REAs, because the for-profits would not do it. And this is exactly what we're facing right now. So anyway, that's just a comment. Anybody
Madam
else?
Chair, the difference being that the CUDs are spending public money, and to break the accountability and transparency of the expense of public money is a huge departure from our entire system of government accountability. But more fundamentally, in effect, the CUDs are doing telecommunications planning. And you've heard from me time and time again about our decades-long failures in our telecommunications planning. But what's happened is, because of this rush to do broadband now, we're failing to recognize that our telecommunications planning statutes, 30 VSA 202C is our goals and policy, and 202D is our planning requirements. That is an entirely transparent and participatory process with public drafts, public reviews, public comments, public hearings in several iterations. And in effect, that's where our fiber planning should be happening, not in closed doors with consolidated executives. And you're at risk of having, a former legislator, Miss Manwaring, sign a contract with Consolidated and forfeit all the transparency and all the rights of the public to have participated in that discussion. And furthermore, the goals of statute require competitive choice and open access, and Consolidated will have neither of those. So are we, in effect, granting the CUDs an exception from our statutory policies for telecommunications? I don't think you intended that.
Steve, I would say that actually, when you're talking about the CUD down here, there are over 70 people who attend those meetings all the time and who are part of it. And you probably wouldn't get any more public than that if you just opened it up to everybody. There's over 70 people that are involved in the CUD down here.
Right, but the plans they're making are not being reviewed by the press and the advocates and the other subject matter experts.
Right, they're being reviewed by those 70 people whose goal, because we couldn't get the for-profits to do the planning and to serve our communities, we told the communities that they need to plan for the last mile. We've told them that. And that was the only way to get it to happen. So we told them that they had to do the planning for that. And I just disagree with you about the need for make it all open.
But when you gave them the charge to do that, when you created the CUD statute, I was in your committee when you did that. It did not say you're exempt from the statutory goals and policies of 202C. And you're exempt from open meeting and public records law. So in effect, this has gone in a very dark turn, and we're at risk of not only designing and entering contracts, greater monopolist contracts, and then having the CUD fail and losing the public assets, and all of this haven't happened behind closed doors. So I'm sounding the alarm bells that this model is not well thought out, and we need to, right now, we have the opportunity to take a pause. There's nothing going to get built this year anyway. Those engineered designs that weren't already ready are not going to get built. So the 100 million won't get started being spent until next spring. So there is time to work on these issues. And again, I've got a list of 17 of them, plus a few more to elaborate on today that merit a summer study, because both committees just skipped right over these issues. And many of them are government operations and coordination issues. I'd like to step to that issue right away, because right now the CUDs are not addressing public safety communications needs or the need for cell coverage. So
How do we know that?
How do we know that? Because they have elected that and said so in their meetings and in their minutes. They decided that broadband is their only focus. They will, for the most part, all of them are saying we're not going to consider even wireless to get people served this year or next. We're going to make them wait until the third or fourth or fifth year until we can get fiber to them. And that's unconscionable when you've got people who, telemedicine patients and remote work people who cannot get any broadband right now at all. So what's missing is that adherence to our statutory goals, which do include wireless coverage and do include shared infrastructure. And I would say it's incumbent upon this committee to clarify that CUD plans must address our existing statutory goals of 202C, because that's where they would be required to integrate the reliability and the redundancy and the competitive choice. It might preclude Consolidated from entering a monopoly contract with DV Fiber without agreeing to allow a competitor to come in and use the same facilities.
We're saying that the CUD would build it out, and then a competitor could come in and just swoop up their facilities?
No, not scoop. No. What open access means is that a competitor will pay a reasonable, non-discriminatory charge for use of the facilities. So the CUD would be getting, in effect, a wholesale rate for the use of their spare fibers, and a competitor would have the same cost structure to deliver equipment to the homes and install and support the modems and the firewalls and the wireless access points. So, and the back-end billing systems, et cetera. I know one model that worked where public infrastructure, the city of Huntsville, Alabama, hired the same firm that Vermont has hired, CTT Technology, to do our 10-year telecommunications plan. And then the electric utility hired a group out of Las Vegas, the broadband group, and between them they put a fiber design in place, and they did the business plan, and they cooperatively built an open access fiber infrastructure, which attracted competitors to come in. One of them being Google, to deliver the service to the customers. In Vermont, it's not at all clear that Consolidated is prepared to do any better with internet customer service than they have with telephone customer service. So we may be putting all our eggs in baskets that could come back to haunt us. But one argument for the integrated planning is that the governor, in his proposal for how to spend the ARPA money, said he wanted $25 million to be spent on cellular service. That is ignored. The Finance Committee just ignored cellular service altogether, even where cellular service can provide interim broadband. Today, when you roll out these radios, they can serve both fixed wireless and mobile wireless, and that could bridge people for the next couple of years until fiber gets there. And it would fill the dead zones where people can't call 911 if they run off the road. So this kind of integrated planning, and you've been hearing me talk to your committee for years about integrating the governance over telecommunications, because it's a fractionated, fractured and siloed environment, which is creating incredible waste. If CUDs do design only for broadband, we're going to have to redesign again for public safety and for cellular. And that will be hugely wasteful and might not happen within the available money we have right now.
So I'd like to hear from a couple other committee members to see where, because I have to tell you, this is an area, as I've said before, that it is not my area at all. And I have to have some faith in the CUDs. I think that I do. I have not heard from one person down here about the secrecy of planning or anything about the CUD down here. So Senator Collmore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve, I just want to go back to the rate that you mentioned a while back, because I don't think I'm clearly understanding it. You contrasted a $35 a month rate with a $110 rate. If indeed the for-profit companies have determined that a particular area will not be profitable enough for them to build out, and then the CUD comes in and does it, and the CUD is going to charge more money, I understand that, 110. How does the for-profit company wind up with a 30? Oh, okay, so there's cross-subsidization. Why don't they just do that now then? I don't understand if they're going to take all the people that are already being served and charge them a little bit more, and they've got many more customers, thus subsidizing that new area. Why don't they just do that now? I guess I'm not understanding. If it's not profitable, then why would they do it later after the CUD has come in?
It will be potentially profitable to Consolidated to ride on DV Fiber's infrastructure if the public pays for the infrastructure.
Yeah,
In effect, if we're building it at no cost to Consolidated, then the $35 a month is gravy to them.
So how do
even if they share a little bit of it with the CUD.
So Steve, it's Allison. How do they have the right to? How do they have the right to use the CUD's infrastructure?
This is what's being called a partnership. In fact, it was proposed in one of the ski towns down there a few years ago, and the town wisely rejected the offer. But Fairpoint said, here, we've got a design, we have fiber here and here. If you spend a few $1 million and build fiber here and here and here, we'll run the whole thing, and then we'll own the fiber you built. And that's, in effect, where we're headed, where DV Fiber will think they're the partner with Consolidated, but partner is the piranha, and they're the minnow. You know, Consolidated is, the economics don't work for a CUD to have enough money to hire a utility manager. Utility managers make over $100,000 a year, and to build that into their rates and to have the back end billing systems, et cetera. So Consolidated, just in fairness, the Consolidated $35 price is in the transcript from House Energy and Tech, and that was an introductory first year. They will jump up to $45 or $50 in the second year, and they'll offer gigabit service up at about $90. But contrast that. Go ahead.
So we put our public dollars in and build up the system through the CUD and get all those volunteers working for nothing for years to get this going and build it up. And then, whoof, the for-profit comes in, swoops it up and says, well, thank you for building it out and thank you for all the work you've done. And now we'll take over.
That's where we're headed. That's where we're headed.
I think, sorry.
Yeah.
So I apologize for having a side conversation, but I am staying in touch with Senator Pearson because I personally feel out of my league. You know, we haven't been looking at this
Right.
bill all session. I just asked him, is there any way to make sure that that infrastructure that's, you know, built through CUD investments from the state, et cetera, doesn't become privatized? He said it's already in there. So I'm worried that we're kind of getting
Well, I don't
out
think
of
it
our
becomes,
And we don't need to.
it doesn't become
Well,
privatized, I don't think, but what happens is they come in and you rent the infrastructure. That's what I understood, is that they,
rent it.
yeah.
I mean,
So
but
that they
why
Yeah,
don't-
it could be either of both. And I'll explain what Senator Pearson's referring to. There, after the $4 million was given to Tilson Technologies by the department last year, and it was supposed to be built by December, and it wasn't. It's still not built. For St. Johnsbury, Lunenburg, and West Danville, 2 different projects at about $2 million apiece. Somebody within Tilson mentioned that they were already thinking of flipping it and selling those built fiber systems to another, and that came through a reliable source. Tilson, of course, denies it now, but it caused Senator Kitchell to get concerned enough to insist that we put provisions in all of these grants going forward, that if there's a failure or a sale of a CUD, that the state has the right to revert ownership of those publicly funded assets. The problem is that the state is not really the state. It's not the legislature. It's this 3-person board that could, in effect, just say, okay, it's yours. And you would have much to say about it other than not reconfirm them next time. So I similarly, on that similar topic, this bill includes a provision where the millions and upon millions of dollars in state fiber that are currently existing in the Northeast Kingdom and in the EC fiber territory, and some of it down near Putney, all of that fiber is going to be given away to the CUDs under this bill if they want it, but without review by the Senate Institutions Committee and without review of the appraised value of that fiber or of the existing customers that are riding in that fiber, being
Well, it's still
Vitel,
public,
Verizon, you know?
right?
So
But
that is a
isn't it-
way premature release of a public asset that has not been planned or thought through at all, and that should be stripped from the bill.
Isn't it going from one public to another public? The CUDs are.
It is, but to another public that has no staff and no capacity to manage dark fiber leases. And we don't, I've asked the 911 board to get back to me by 2:30 today, and they weren't, but I believe that parts of their new system are riding within that. So the implications of the complications of handing this fiber off and having to transfer the lessor relationship to all those leaseholders and it's just unfathomable. The complexity of getting repairs made and who's riding on it that's mission critical. Is U.S. border security running on it? And are they going to be forewarned that this is being handed to a volunteer organization? The ramifications are enormous.
So this is sort of a lot on a Friday afternoon. I mean, this is a big issue, and this was Finance's job to parse this out in their committee, right? I mean,
all I'll say is that I have been documenting these issues in writing. I've gotten little to no response. They have not been discussed in committee, and I was refused the opportunity to testify and bring these issues out in that forum. So what I'm going to simplify it for you and say that I've documented all these issues. I can clarify a few, but there is a couple of urgent solutions you could do that would fix the bill and not get too much damage in going forward. One of them is emailed to Chris, and I thought he was going to share it with you. That's to require that a statewide fiber design be commissioned and be completed this year so that there's something to compare the CUD plans to, because you can't just turn 12 puzzle makers loose saying it'll be part of a jigsaw puzzle and expect all of those to fit together. And that's what a statewide fiber plan would do. It would complement the 10-year telecommunications plan, and it would build in the statewide resiliency and interoperability and public safety grade backbone that the CUDs would build onto.
Who
So
would do
that
that?
should be commissioned. Who would do that? A contractor. You'd have to put it out to bid because it's
Well, we don't-
hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work. So
And
the language to describe it is already crafted, and what it would do would be to, anyway, I think I've already said it, and I'll share that language again with you, Madam Chair, and the committee. Secondly, the attachment of 911. This body is being created with the 3-person board within the Department of Public Service. All of the CUDs that I've talked to, and I talk to executive committee and chairman, et cetera, regularly, some of them are scared of me because I do public records requests. But no one has supported leaving this in the department. The entire purpose after 10 or 15 years of failed planning was to get it out of the department. And yet Senate Finance chose to leave it in the department, thinking that it will delay things. The contractor, CTC, who's doing the 10-year plan, recommended that leaving it in the department would save time because it needs to get up and running quickly. But once we recognize and you ask the questions, nothing's really going to get built this year. We've got the rest of this year to complete a fiber plan, stand up the board, stand up the staff. And that person was being paid by the department handsomely for that advice.
so wait a minute.
Getting an independent authority is the way to do this, and making the board more than 3 people is the way to do this.
Giving who
also,
independent authority?
Say it again?
Giving who independent authority?
Creating this broadband office as an independent authority, like the VTA was, rather than tucking it into the department. Because what's the current discussion is that the commissioner is going to hire the lawyer, and then that lawyer is going to segue over into the so-called independent authority. But that's not the way lawyers make agreements and maintain their loyalties and their confidences. So this should be more of a VTA standalone model, and it should have probably a 5-person board at minimum for now. Later, we can talk about growing it to a bigger board and having it. This board should do the review and adoption of the 10-year plan. The department should no longer be allowed to adopt their own plan. It's been deficient for decades, and here you're going to finally have a body that has the capacity, presumably, to review the plan for consistency with statute and finally adopt the plan. That's an easy fix.
I've
the rest
gotten
of the-
myself, can I just interrupt here? I've gotten myself very
Sure.
confused here. You're suggesting that E911 not be within the Department of Public Safety? Or who is it that should not be in the Department of Public Safety that's currently in there?
I didn't get to that. I didn't get to that topic yet, Madam Chair.
Yes.
That's a
Yeah,
The 911
did.
board, the 911 board is a related board with a lot of capacity of computer mapping and resiliency that could function well. It's a 10-person staff. And compare that this broadband initiative that's having 200 million as opposed to 4 million, which is the 911 board. 200 million pumped into it is being asked to operate with 3 staff. So
No, I guess I misunderstood you. I thought you said that somebody right now is within the Department of Public Safety and they shouldn't be. Who was that you were referring to?
No, I was saying that the department, this new body, the way the bill just passed out of Senate Finance, the broadband office and fund is under the Department of Public Service, not Department of Public Safety.
Okay.
It's not a separate authority. They changed it from the House. The House was going to create the Community Broadband Authority, and Senator Brock's bill was going to revive the Vermont Telecommunications Authority as a standalone authority. And the Senate Finance Committee reverted it to a division in the department. And that has no support or confidence that I've heard from any of the CUD community or any of the analysts that have been tracking this, including former legislators, that leaving it in the department is a mistake. And yet that's what you've been handed. So
Okay.
it may be too late and too complex to try to reverse the action of the Senate Finance Committee. But again, this would be a worthy section of the charge for a summer study to analyze not only the benefits and or disadvantages of a standalone authority, but also the benefits of aligning or merging or attaching the 911 staff to this same. Because of their resiliency expertise, if everything a communications union district proposes to build is analyzed by a 911 expert for where could the calls get blocked and how could these resiliency measures be better improved, that is a win-win. That's and the 911 board has 11 staff, one vacancy right now. So just compare the workload. They've also got good GIS mapping skills. They've got all the wireless information of all the cell towers under proprietary cover, but it's a much better match than moving the 911 board to the public safety department, which hasn't even convened its emergency communications advisory board in 2 years. 2 years since it was created.
I have to say, there are so many things here that are, and it is going to be just impossible for me to look at. And I'm looking at the Vermont Community Broadband Authority, and I don't see that it's in the Department of Public Safety. It's created and established as a body
public
corporate
service.
Or public service. I mean, I don't see that it's there.
That's in the House bill. That's not what the Senate has passed.
Madam Chair,
The
can
Senate
I
has.
make a suggestion?
Yes.
I want to go out on a limb and just say, I don't think we have the requisite information to make a decision today.
Oh, no.
And I think we do need to hear from a few other people. I do get the sense that the Committee of Jurisdiction really does want our opinion on governance and getting this right. And it's so critical. I wonder if we can make time for it next week and make sure we have a good list of witnesses that can all be in the same space. We can get a 101 or a 0.1, whatever level we're at.
0.01?
Yeah, take it from there.
And I would ask that you actually take possession of the bill and then amend it as you see fit, add the summer study, and then you might also then gain a seat on the conference committee to protect these interests. I think that's probably the best strategy. Senator White, with all due respect, you're looking at the House passed version, not the version that passed out of Senate Finance.
You're right. I am looking at the House passed version. Yeah. And so
I've raised most of the issues that has to be a tamper-proof board. This cannot be a political tool, and it has to have staying power and vision and integrity beyond. And if the governors switch, it has to maintain consistency, or we're not going to get the job done, even with the available money.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be happy to share anything in writing and or come back next week. But I would ask you to ask the bill be committed to your committee so that, and it could be in and out of there by Wednesday or Thursday.
I'm going to take up Senator Rahm's advice, because that's where I was getting to also, is that we need to focus ourselves here for one thing. I mean, we can't start dealing with whether the E911 board should be in the public safety department or not. We have to become very focused here and know what we're dealing with and what the issues are with this bill. And if there are suggestions that we can make to make it better. And I think that I do know that Senator Brock had some suggestions, and I don't know where that is. So what I'm going to do is schedule this for Tuesday, and and look at it. And if people have suggestions about who might be the right people to testify, and I think that what we're going to look at is the governance issue. That's really our jurisdiction. And so I think that we'll figure out who are the best people.
Well, we should figure that out today, or because
Senator
Yeah.
Pearson said Maria Royale. It didn't look like.
It's just Maria Royal.
That's what I thought. I didn't know if it was the same.
It's Maria Royal, like
Royal.
the Royal family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that piece, I would argue, Madam Chair, that you are the committee of jurisdiction over governance issues and integrated planning issues. Those fell well outside the capacity of the Senate Finance Committee. So it's logical that you would get to the bottom of these issues. I don't know whether I can't speak to her availability, but a woman who worked at the Vermont Telecommunications Authority, her name is Krista Shute. She has testified in Senate Finance and House Energy and Tech, and she completed law school. She now works for the Public Advocate's Office in New Hampshire. And she's an attorney, and she's expert, and she knows the VTA inside and out because she works there for years. And that would probably be your best advisor on, even better than Maria Royal or Chris Pearson, on the issue of governance of an independent body, ownership of fiber, and many of these topics.
So if you would send that in, her contact to Gail.
Sure. Yep, I'll do that.
And
where does Steve, where does Matt, Don, and the Center on Rural Innovation fit in on any of this? Are they?
Well, they're going to have their. I believe I understand your question. They have not weighed in. They do. Center for Rural Innovation is a subcontractor to CTC Technologies, CTC Technologies. That's who's authoring the telecom plan. And their advice in testimony to the Senate Finance was time is of the essence to get this body up and running. And that's why they concluded that leaving it in the department might be an advantage. But their first draft of the 10-year telecommunications plan is due to be ready next Wednesday, I think, on the 10th. No, next Monday. So we'll have their plan to look at, but what that'll do is make it painfully obvious that that is not a fiber plan by any stretch, and it will, I believe, impress upon you the need to amend this bill to include contracting for a engineered fiber design for the whole state. Because on that foundation, we'll be ready to start building next spring.
And who at EC Fiber, if anybody, should we speak to?
EC Fiber, Irv Tomei is the government relations former chair, but he's now government relations.
We all know who Irv is. The question is, would he be he is such a wise counsel on many things. Would he have good governance input?
I don't think at the state level he would. For a long time, he even just questioned the need for a telecommunications plan. I don't think you're ready to dig into the issue between ValleyNet and EC Fiber, but that's the one he should speak to. But that's probably more for the summer study scope.
So which committee in the House did this come out of?
This came out of Tim.
House
This is
Energy and Technology.
This is because Tim would be a good person maybe to weigh in too.
That's what I wondered.
Yeah.
And Mike Marcotte would be, as chair of commerce, would be one to weigh in on the importance of competition, which both of these bills have totally disregarded. Commerce used to be the committee of jurisdiction for telecommunications, and competition, competitive choice, and open access are statutory goals that have been ignored in these bills. So I would encourage you to talk to Mike Marcotte as well.
Yeah. But this bill came out of Tim's committee, Tim and Laura Sebelia's committee.
You're correct.
is it important, since we're really just talking about governance at the state level here, and we're not, I don't believe we're going to get into issues of the CUDs and how they operate with their, with the for-profits. Would it be valuable at all to have somebody from a CUD talk to us, or at least be with us?
I would like that.
Yeah.
Maybe any case.
Oh, I'm sure you'll be hearing from all of them. They're going to listen to this recording and they're going to be jumping in this.
No, they're
up and
already
down.
listening, and we're already getting
already-
emails from them.
They're already emailing us now, Steve.
So I can help you next Tuesday to sort out what needs action this year in order to keep the ball rolling and to keep the train on the track. And then what issues, there's 17 issues in an email I sent you all this morning that was crafted long ago. And each of those is fundamental because we could be wasting tens of millions of dollars doing work that won't be necessary based on the findings of that study committee. So there's some forks in the road for strategy and getting a statewide design done that will create the most effective, cost-effective use of the money we have. We should not presume there's hundreds of millions more coming in October and that we can afford to squander this 150 million. But it is possible that if we do this right, we can complete the whole state by 2024 with fiber and start to build an economy based on that. So.
All right, so I'm going to suggest that we take this up on Tuesday. So what we'll do on Tuesday is that Senator Clarkson, do you think that there will be a Democratic caucus at noon on Tuesday?
We were planning on one.
So we will plan on meeting at 1:15 to give us a little time in between, because we usually end around 1.
Yeah.
We'll meet at 1:15 and we'll spend about 15 or 20 minutes talking about the Wilmington charter so that we can get that out. I'll send John Gannon a note, and then we'll take this up. I had thought we would do ethics on Tuesday, but we'll do that on Wednesday.
Oh, poor Larry.
I know. I keep inviting him and then uninviting him. Is that ethical?
No, probably not. But anyway, he happily seems to understand the way we work.
Yeah. Senator Calmer, I saw you unmuted yourself. Did you?
No, it's late Friday. I'm all set.
I know. Okay. So I will, Gail, if you can just stay on with me for a little while afterwards, and we will get this set up for Tuesday.
And I welcome anybody's return calls over the weekend if you need clarification to better understanding, as long as it's not a quorum of you.
Right. Thank you.